With the start of the Sumerian civilization, daily life in Mesopotamia began to change. Prior to the growth of cities and large towns, people lived in small villages and most people hunted and gathered. There wasn't a lot of variety in jobs or daily life. With the growth of large cities, things changed. There were all sorts of jobs and activities. While many people still worked as farmers in the country, in the city a person could grow up to work in a number of different jobs, such as priest, scribe, merchant, craftsman, soldier, civil servant, or laborer. With people moving to towns and governments being formed, society was dividing into different classes of people for perhaps the first time. At the top of society was the king and his family. The priests were considered near the top as well. The rest of the upper class was made up of the wealthy, such as high-level administrators and scribes. Below the upper class was a small middle class made up of craftsmen, merchants, and civil servants. They could make a decent living and could work hard to try to move up in class. The lower class was made up of laborers and farmers. These people lived a harder life but could still work their way up with hard work. At the bottom were the slaves. Slaves were owned by the king or bought and sold among the upper class. Slaves were usually people who were captured in battle. What type of homes did they live in? Most people lived in mud brick homes. They were rectangular in shape and had 2 to 3 levels. The roofs were flat and people would often sleep on the roofs during the hot summers. The mud brick worked as a good insulator and helped to keep the homes a bit cooler in the summer and warmer in the winter. As the cities of Mesopotamia grew wealthy, there were more resources and free time for people to enjoy entertainment. They enjoyed music at festivals including drums, lyres, flutes, and harps. They also enjoyed sports such as boxing and wrestling, as well as board games and games of chance using dice. The children of the time would have had toys to play with such as tops and jump rope. Art and poetry was a big part of the wealthier cities. Most of the poetry and art had a religious theme or honored the king of the city. Storytellers would have passed stories down over generations, with some of the more popular stories eventually being written down on clay tablets by scribes. Clothing was typically made from sheepskin or wool. The men wore kilt-like skirts and the women wore longer dresses. They enjoyed wearing jewelry, especially rings. The women braided their long hair, while the men had long hair and beards. Both men and women wore makeup. Sumer, a region of Mesopotamia, modern-day Iraq, was the birthplace of writing, the wheel, agriculture, the arch, the plow, irrigation, and many other innovations, and is often referred to as the cradle of civilization. The Sumerians developed the earliest known writing system, a pictographic writing system known as cuneiform script, using wedge-shaped characters inscribed on baked clay tablets, and this has meant that we actually have more knowledge of ancient Sumerian and Babylonian mathematics than of early Egyptian mathematics. Sumerian mathematics initially developed largely as a response to bureaucratic needs when their civilization settled and developed agriculture, for the measurement of plots of land, the taxation of individuals, etc. In addition, the Sumerians and Babylonians needed to describe quite large numbers as they attempted to chart the course of the night sky and develop their sophisticated lunar calendar. They were perhaps the first people to assign symbols to groups of objects in an attempt to make the description of larger numbers easier. They moved from using separate tokens or symbols to represent sheaves of wheat, jars of oil, etc., to the more abstract use of symbol for specific numbers of anything. Starting as early as the 4th millennium BCE, they began using a small clay cone to represent 1, a clay ball for 10, and a large cone for 60. Over the course of the 3rd millennium, these objects were replaced by cuneiform equivalents so that numbers could be written with the same stylus that was being used for the words in the text. A rudimentary model of the abacus was probably in use in Sumeria from as early as 2700 to 2300 BCE. Sumerian and Babylonian mathematics was based on a sexagesimal or base 60 numeric system, which could be counted physically using the 12 knuckles on one hand, the 5 fingers on the other hand, unlike those of the Egyptian, Greeks, and the Romans. Babylonian numbers used a true place value system, where digits written in the left column represented larger values, much as in the modern decimal system, although of course using base 60, not base 10. It has been conjectured that Babylonian advances in mathematics were probably facilitated by the fact that 60 has many divisors. In fact, 60 is the smallest integer divisible by all integers from 1 to 6, and the continued modern-day usage of 60 seconds in minutes, 60 minutes in an hour, and 360 degrees in a circle are all testaments to the ancient Babylonian system. It is for similar reasons that 12 has been such a popular multiple historically. The Babylonians also developed another revolutionary mathematical concept, something else that the Egyptians, Greeks, and Romans did not have: a circled character for 0, although its symbol was really still more of a placeholder than a number in its own right. We have evidence of the development of a complex system of metrology in Sumer from about 3000 BCE, and multiplication and reciprocal tables, tables of squares, square roots and cube roots, geometrical exercises, and division problems from around 2600 BCE onwards. Later Babylonian tablets dating from about 1800 to 1600 BCE covered topics as varied as fractions, algebra, methods for solving linear, quadratic, and even some cubic equations, and the calculation of regular reciprocal pairs. One Babylonian tablet gives an approximation to square root of 2 accurate to an astonishing 5 decimal places. Others list the squares of numbers up to 59, the cubes of numbers up to 32, as well as tables of compound interest. Yet another gives an estimate for pi of 3.125, a reasonable approximation of the real value of 3.1416. The idea of square numbers and quadratic equations naturally arose in the context of the measurement of land, and Babylonian mathematical tablets give us the first ever evidence of solution of quadratic equations. The Babylonian approach to solving them usually revolved around a kind of geometric game of slicing up and rearranging shapes, although the use of algebra and quadratic equations also appears. At least some of the examples we have appear to indicate problem solving for its own sake rather than in order to resolve a concrete practical problem. Babylonians used geometric shapes in their buildings and designs and in dice for the leisure games which were so popular in their society, such as the ancient game of backgammon. Their geometry extended to the calculation of the areas of rectangles, triangles, and trapezoids, as well as the volume of simple shapes such as bricks and cylinders. The famous and controversial Plimpton 322 clay tablets, believed to date from around 1800 BCE, suggest that the Babylonians may well have known the secret of the right-handed triangles many centuries before the Greek Pythagoras. The tablet appears to list 15 perfect Pythagorean triangles with whole number sides, although some claim that they were merely academic exercises and not deliberate manifestations of Pythagorean triples.
Hi there. Civilization is defined as an advanced state of human society in which a high level of culture, science, industry, and government has been reached. Civilizations have come and gone. If you're watching this, you're probably living in a civilization right now. Hopefully, you won't be around to watch yours collapse. Sumer is considered one of the first civilizations in Mesopotamia. Some consider it the first civilization in history. But was it really a civilization? Is there evidence that suggests that Sumer was a civilization? Who's to say what a civilization is? Many historians agree that civilizations have certain characteristics. These historians agree to be considered a civilization, there must be some sort of stable food supply, a social structure, a system of government, a religious system, a highly developed culture, advances in technology, and a developed written language. Did Sumer have these characteristics? Let's look at the evidence. Civilizations need food to thrive. Is there evidence that suggests Sumer had a stable food supply? Yes, there was. Archaeologists have found evidence of a plow, which is a tool used in agriculture to prepare the soil for planting. Archaeologists have also found written evidence of barley. So yes, Sumer had a stable food supply. Civilizations have a complex organization of its people. People in a civilization have different jobs and social levels. Is there evidence that Sumer had a complex social structure? Yes, there was. Archaeologists have found evidence of an artisan class and an upper class. Archaeologists have discovered that the houses of Sumer were organized based on class. The people with the largest and most luxurious homes were near the center, while the common classes lived near the outskirts of the city. So yeah, Sumer had a social structure. Civilizations have a system of government in order to direct people's behavior. Is there evidence that Sumer had a government? Why, yes, there was. Archaeologists have found evidence that Sumerian city-states were ruled by kings, and these kings enforced the laws and collected taxes. Archaeologists have also discovered evidence of a Sumerian army to help protect the city, so Sumer had a government. All civilizations have a religious system that includes a set of beliefs and a form of worship. Is there evidence that Sumer had a religious system? Yes, there was. Archaeologists believe that religious beliefs influence every part of daily life. Archaeologists have also uncovered countless statues that showed their religious beliefs, so Sumer had a religious system. All civilizations have a highly developed culture, including the arts. Is there evidence that Sumer had a highly developed culture? Yes, there was. Archaeologists have found evidence that Sumer had many different kinds of artisans who created weapons, cups, jewelry, and much more. Archaeologists have also discovered music was a big part of Sumerian culture, so Sumer had a highly developed culture. All civilizations create new forms of technology. They invent new things. Is there evidence that Sumer had technological advancements? Yes, there were. Archaeologists credit the Sumerians with the invention of the wheel. Sumerians also made great technological advancements to their buildings by developing an arch. So Sumer did have technology. Finally, all civilizations have a highly developed written language. Is there evidence of a written language in Sumer? Nope. Just kidding, of course there is. Archaeologists have found plenty of evidence of a written language that uses wedge-shaped characters called cuneiform. The earliest examples of cuneiform show that it was used to record information about trades Sumerians made with each other. So yes, Sumer had a highly developed written language. There you have it. Sumer exhibited all the characteristics of civilization. They had a stable food supply, a social structure, a government, a religious system, a developed culture, technology, and a written language. Unfortunately for the Sumerians, their civilization did not last forever. They collapsed in around 2000 BCE. Well, that's all for now. Until next time, here are some sources. And some photo credits. And some more photo credits.
Autosuggestion is a term which applies to all suggestions and all self-administered stimuli which reach one's mind through the five senses. Stated in another way, autosuggestion is self-suggestion. It is the agency of communication between that part of the mind where conscious thought takes place and that which serves as the seat of action for the subconscious mind. Through the dominating thoughts which one permits to remain in the conscious mind, the principle of autosuggestion voluntarily reaches the subconscious mind and influences it with these thoughts. No thought, whether it be negative or positive, can enter the subconscious mind without the aid of the principle of autosuggestion, with the exception of thoughts picked up from the ether. Stated differently, all sense impressions which are perceived through the five senses are stopped by the conscious thinking mind, and may be either passed on to the subconscious mind or rejected at will. The conscious faculty serves, therefore, as an outer guard to the approach of the consciousness. Nature has so built man that he has absolute control over the material which reaches his subconscious mind through his five senses. Although this is not meant to be construed as a statement that man always exercises this control. In the great majority of instances, he does not exercise it, which explains why so many people go through life in poverty. Recall what has been said about the subconscious mind resembling a fertile garden spot in which weeds will grow in abundance if the seeds of more desirable crops are not sown therein. Autosuggestion is the agency of control through which an individual may voluntarily feed his subconscious mind on thoughts of a creative nature, or by neglect permit thoughts of a destructive nature to find their way into the rich garden of the mind. You are instructed in the last of the 6 steps described in the chapter on desire to read aloud twice daily the written statement of your desire for success and to see and feel yourself already in position of success. By following these instructions, you communicate the object of your desire directed to your subconscious mind in a spirit of absolute faith. Through repetition of this procedure, you voluntarily create thought habits which are favorable to your efforts to transmute desire into its success equivalent.